Attention, all of my elevated content seekers. We believe digital is designed to inspire. Whether it's music, news, entertainment, we believe digital has the content that you don't want to miss. We're bringing you the best in news, entertainment, sports, inspiration, and so much more. Not only are we designed to inspire, but you can advertise with us and reach your target audience now. Got something that you believe in? Well, we believe in you, and we're offering you the opportunity to become a podcaster at We Believe Digital Studios. To become a want to know more? You can contact us at www.webelievedigital.com. And while you're at it, be sure to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Roku at We Believe Digital.
Mine at other times, my podcast.
Good evening, and welcome to Doc and Sock. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi. Mississippi stays in the limelight, stays in the headlines, stays on the front pages of papers and news channels all over the world. We're broadcasting live from right here in an African-American owned and operated broadcast studio. If you're watching us on Facebook, then send us stars, subscribe to the program, share the program with your friends and family. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the program. We are a network. We're not a page. We come and bring you some of the most important information you're going to find anywhere in the world. And I'm announcing today that Doc and Sock will be on 3 days a week now to bring you this information, because the information is coming so rapidly, so quick, so swiftly, until it's hard for us to do it justice in just 1 hour per week. So we're going to tackle that and try to bring you current events as they happen right here in our city. So as always, my co-host is one of the most renowned authors in the world. He's one of the most sought after speakers in the world. He is Dr. Eldridge Henderson, born on a plantation in the Mississippi Delta and has risen above anyone's expectations. Doc, how have you been?
I've been fine, sir. Been fine. I tell you, though, things are moving real fast in my life. I'm working more now than I've ever worked since I've been born. I was thinking I would be able to retire and have some time off, and you just told me it would be good if we do 3 days a week. I'm already doing 7 days a week in another field, and I tell you, I got some work to do.
You do, Doc. The community is crying out for information and for somebody to shed some light in a lot of dark places. And one of the dark places that Mississippi is dealing with now is the death of Nolan Wells, Doc.
Yeah, that's a very tragic situation. Now, the good news is that everybody you talk to, especially in the law enforcement area, the local police on the coast, the FBI and others, are investigating. There are no conclusions yet. Everyone is accusing everyone else, directly and indirectly, of foul play. And the grand jury has to get involved, and then there's a trial. So this thing is nowhere close to being over, sir. And it's going to get mean before the end of this situation. And then there's a lot of money involved. And of course, you're going to hear some controversy about that after things cool down as far as the trial, when it happens, whether it's good or bad.
Now, Doc, let me bring our viewers up all over the world. For those of you that are watching us in Germany and Vietnam and Nigeria, we want you to know what we're talking about. So on the holiday, on the celebration of America's 250th birthday, we had a young African-American boy, Nolan Wells, that went out on a boating trip with his friends, of whom were Caucasians. They were white. And he apparently was the only African American boy on that boat at the time. And then on July the 4th, everybody returned home, but Mr. Wells did not come back. 2 days later, his body was found floating in the ocean, and after 2 days later. And so we are dealing with the issues of what happened to Mr. Wells. Now, Doc, when we look at Mississippi history, we understand why national media and local folk are jumping to conclusions.
Well, they are doing so, as you know from our history and records since, I would say, 1500. They have a reason to believe that if they look at the history of so-called race relations in Mississippi and the nation, most of the local people, for as white people were concerned, have always said that there is no racial problem in Mississippi, in the South, that they have some very good Negroes. And anytime there's a problem that get involved there is because of outside agitators coming to Mississippi, to Alabama and other places, and disturbing what they call the good peace. They said, and this is a historical fact, that as long as you keep the blacks separated, keep them miseducated, and keep them in a position where they can work hard but don't make any money, everything will be fine. Don't disturb that. And blacks and white will never have a problem in the South or even in America. But some people say that is not the way it is, and that's not the way it's going to be. And there will be some changes, and they are gradually happening until you have the big deal in about 15 or 20 years.
Now, Doc, we'll get to what the big deal is, but you and I were both born in the 40s. And so we were young boys. And when Emmett Till was so brutally murdered up in Money, Mississippi for allegedly whistling at a white woman. And so we realize and have lived through these kinds of incidents and these kinds of tragedies throughout our lives. So this is not our first rodeo. This is not the first time we are dealing with someone that went out but did not come back to the house, wondering what happened to them. I had two cousins that left home and went up into Kosciuszko, Mississippi, and never returned. Instead, we found two greasy spots on the Natchez Trace Highway where they had been brutally murdered. In fact, they had been castrated. And those kind of images and those kind of things stir up memories that Mississippi is trying to get over, Doc. And this sets us back and takes us back to a time where no one wants to be.
Well, that is correct. Now, get back to this Till case. That is a good example of what you're talking about when you reference your relatives and friends that got killed. Now, we all know, and the evidence is very prevalent, that two white men were alleged to have killed Emmett Till. But if you look at the evidence and witnesses that were present prior to his death, it is said in some of the literature, it is alleged that there were black men involved at the same time when Till was picked up and when he was killed. But now they have not investigated the situation and charged any of those black men. There were several, and I can call the names, but I'm not going to do it at this time. But they never had to go and testify for or against themselves because they were not indicted. And that's why you don't find very important people being associated with death and blacks, especially if it's white. They usually would get off. If blacks are assisting them, they usually don't call them to testify or charge them. And you very seldom have good news with who is responsible in those situations. And after years or two, they just disappear. Evidence disappears, people forget about it. And before you get through forgetting about it, something else happens that's a little worse.
And Doc, so we continue to deal with those kinds of issues. And like Emmett Till, it took weeks, months before we were able to discover his body on the bottom of the Tallahatchie River.
That's correct.
And so here we are now that we still don't have evidence or conclusion as to what happened to Nolan Wells. Now, Doc, the Mississippi State Medical Examiner hasn't given us a cause of death. Then Al Sharpton and Ben Crump and Tyler Perry and others paid to have a second autopsy done, and the body was shipped out to Washington, D.C. And the medical examiner up there said that the body arrived with missing organs, and he too was unable to declare a cause of death. And so when you have this type of cloudiness over a situation like this, Doc, speculation and anger and heated conversations are running rampant.
Well, that's a fact. And that is all by design. The longer you talk about it, you find that people will have a tendency to forget about it, and then they move on. Now, we all know that if you have parts missing, someone took the parts, they are stored somewhere, and all the investigator has to do, in my opinion, and those that are doing the second autopsy, request those parts legally if necessary, and be able to evaluate them unless they don't want to do so or afraid to do it. Now, that's not a good word to use, afraid to do it, but I thought if you have evidence that something is missing, you ought to be able to track it down and find out where it is when you know where it came from. I'm talking about the body. So that is just a lot of propaganda that the organs were missing, some were missing, and they probably are, but they can be found. And if they can't be found, someone is responsible for them.
Doc, how frequent are organs harvested without permission from family members? I would think that it is improper. I can't say that I think it's illegal because I don't know if there's a law for it, but I think that it's immoral for you to take organs from a body without that family having given you consent.
Well, it might be immoral and it might be illegal. But when it comes to life and death, Sock, and you have a family emergency and you need a body part, a heart, or a lung, or a kidney, and you can get it from a prisoner or from a black person that you don't have no respect for, you don't look at the law as something that's important, nor do you look at morality. You look at the need to get your relative saved, healthy, and back on the job. And that's what happened when you have a situation where thousands of people are disenfranchised. They are looked down as non-humans, and they use those people to take advantage of them any way they can, economically, politically, medically, you name it. That's what happened, because they don't have voice strong enough to do anything about it other than pray and hope the Lord will bless them in the future.
So are you saying that we could have serious organ trafficking occurring here in the U.S.?
Oh, yeah, that is history. It always happened, and they do it all over the world. Some of the countries are so bold when they need organs, they get a list of people that need certain things, and they go and get their prisoners and other folks in insane institutions and others, and get those, extract the organs and sell them, and that's a big business. And most governments know what's happening, just like sex trafficking. We all know what's happening, but very few people want to do anything about it, because you cannot do anything about criminal activity when you know John Doe is doing one thing, you doing another, and you're all working with the same law enforcement agencies, and many times they are involved directly, indirectly, sometimes just turning their head and not seeing what's going on. So it's not very much done. And that's why the current politicians and most of the leaders in the industry and others want to keep the positions they have so they can continue to maintain law and order on their terms. Now, that doesn't sound good, but that's the way it appears in this country and throughout the world. Those that have rule and those that don't pray. That's the way that is.
Doc, and I guess that leaves black folk to be in the praying category.
That's exactly right.
We're certainly not in the ruling category.
That's right. Black folks do a lot of praying, but they need to do what the Bible says. They need to pray and work, plan, and then protect themselves. Use defensive modes to get things done. Do not turn the other cheek all the time. We got to understand that you have to show that you're not a coward, and you have to stand up to the bullies of the world and take some licks on both sides, and not just expect to pray and say, I'm going to get this because I'll be rewarded in the end. And people don't like to hear this. Most people that hear this say that is not the right way. That is not the Christian way. There is no such thing as practicing Christians in Europe and America, to my knowledge. I don't know of any Christian nations that practice Christianity. I don't know of any nation in the world that's practiced democracy. I know of no nation in the world that has a constitution that promotes equity and equality and independence for all citizens, on and on and on. So there's nothing equal in the world when it comes to poor folks and especially black people.
Now, Doc, we're going to overcome. We've always overcome, and we find ourselves as a group of people sometimes with challenges beyond what we could ever imagine or have anticipated dealing with. I'm sure that the Wells family today is suffering like no other family that we can think of when a 18-year-old young black boy with a beautiful future in front of him goes out on the 4th of July and does not come home. This has got to be the worst fear of any black woman in America, that her son goes out but does not come home. That has worried black mothers from the beginning of time, trying to protect black boys, trying to make certain that they knew how to avoid trouble. When the police stop you, put your hands on the dashboard, son. Don't talk back. Don't say anything. You know, we have taught and will continue to teach our children survival skills that requires them to submit and be submissive in the face of danger. We're not taught, Doc, to rise up and fight against the tragedies that are occurring until after the fact in some cases, and then we don't say anything.
Well, usually after the fact, it is too late. Now, sometimes, Sock, you have to put the blame on the people that are being taken advantage of. Sometimes we create our own situations. Now, in certain cases, there's no reason where you're going to allow your child to get in certain situations where there is no protection, only one, and then you have a group of so-called friends with you, loving you, having a good time, all of you drinking, and then you go and get girls involved, and you find that if you're the only one there, and there might be some attraction in your effort, people looking at you, that would probably offend some people. And you say, well, I'm going to hang around. I'm not leaving with you. That might not be a good thing for some of your friends. And I know I would be concerned if I took you somewhere and you were the only one and you had to play with the people that were there and I couldn't. I would be concerned about Socrates being a favorite, and I wouldn't like it.
Doc, you and I grew up at a time when, you know, one of the comedians said that in Mississippi, if you see me with a white woman, I'm holding her for the police. That's the only reason that I'm going to be with her, is that I'm holding her for the police. There was no interracial marriages when you and I came along, Doc. There are a lot of mulatto children.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I don't know how that happened.
Well, I know how it happened, but go ahead. I know what you were saying. Yeah.
But we didn't have intermarriages in Mississippi in the 40s and 50s, Doc. And so I don't know exactly, you know, how we're supposed to teach our children, because we don't want to live in the past. Somebody will say, can't y'all get over it? Can't y'all move on to the next subject? Do you have to continue to talk about things that occurred like Emmett Till, like the murders up in Philadelphia, like the gunning down of Medgar Evers, like the gunning down of Vernon Damer. Can't y'all get along? Can't y'all move on? Why are you stuck in the past? But Doc, it seems to me that based upon the sequencing of events, that Mississippi is stuck in the past and can't move on.
Well, that's a fact. And Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, all of these states, and when I say all, I mean all 50 of them, have histories of being very violent when other groups that are not their same race do anything that is alleged to have some kind of negative impact on them. They would track you down and kill you, burn your town down, go to a funeral home and take a dead body out and prosecute it. And that is a hard thing to do. Go to the jail and get you out of jail, kill you in church, hang you on a Sunday after service so your preachers and others can go and see you dead, on and on and on, and never is there anything done about it. Burn down your whole city, your whole town, your homes, anything in public with photos and every cameras there. And you see it in the local newspapers. There are thousands of articles, and I've read many of them with pictures of folks you know in local communities, and there's nothing done about it.
Doc, you bring about memories, and you know our life experiences is who we are. We're made up of our life experiences and the kinds of things that we've dealt with, the kinds of things that we've come through. And just last night, Doc, I was watching the movie Selma on Netflix, and it took me back so far. It took me back so far to watch the bombing of Black girls in the church in Birmingham, to watch that again, and then to deal with Nolan Wells' situation today. It just doesn't set right. Is something wrong? Is something was wrong then? Something is wrong now, Doc.
Of course it is, and it's going to continue to be wrong. But the bad news is it's going to get worse. Until people that are being prosecuted and oppressed and taken advantage of in a violent manner, until they start fighting back and doing unto others as they do unto me, you're going to find that the bullies of the world are going to continue to be aggressive and destroy you. One a good example of what I'm talking about, look at Iran. They are alleged to be backward. They are alleged to be cowards. But when you mess with people in that part of the world, they will fight back. And the bullies have to rescind some of their activities and say, these people can't be killed. And if I kill them all, it looks like there are another 300 coming along. So when you learn to fight back, you get more respect. And usually you have the same thing happen again. You fade away and start fighting and bullying someone else. And those people build back up and be stronger because they've been doing it for at least 1,000 years. That's what Black folks are going to have to do.
Doc, we're going to have to do that. And there are some aggressive actions that Black folk are taking. The Wells family has started a GoFundMe page after his death. And Al Sharpton, Spike Lee, Tyler Perry, Colin Kaepernick, and others are raising money for this high-profile case. Now, Crump and Sharpton have been more aggressive and on the front line than others. And so they have noticed the friends of Nolan Wells, and I don't want to call them friends of Nolan Wells, because somewhere there's a possibility that they were not friends, that they if you go out and you don't come back, then somebody wasn't your friend.
Well, that's a fact. Now everybody should know that. That's why you have to train your children and your friends and yourself not to get involved in certain situations, and you most certainly shouldn't do it out of town and alone with certain people. It's just not healthy. Not good for your health, sir, whether you like it or not.
It's not good if you go to another country, if you go to Iran, if you go to Jordan. It's not good for you to just get in the boat with Jordanians that you may think that are there for you. We see too many instances where that doesn't turn out right, Doc.
Of course.
Alcohol and a gang of folk together and throw in the mix of a white girl, and you have the ingredients for a bomb.
And you did mention drugs and what I call conservative hatred. And the other deal where you were saying this boy is mighty strong. He might be significant one day. I'm going to befriend him because he's going to help me down the road. All of these things have to be considered, and a lot of parents, black and white, don't want to consider that. And especially some of the black parents, they let their children go too far in certain situations because they think that's going to make them better, especially economically. But in cases like this, and I've told you this many times, when a black person is economically in a position where he's going to be progressive, especially in sports, usually the black people don't end up with his resources. It's usually the same people that allege that he was their best friend. And time after time, he ends up, after retirement, broke at home with his mother or grandmother, and everybody else is rich.
Wow.
That is a historical fact. Thousands of cases like that.
Doc, we are going to have to move on to other subject matter. We certainly think that the investigation of the death of Nolan Wells is the #1 priority here in Mississippi. It's been played out on the national media all over the world. And if there's anybody out there that has any information associated that identifies what happened to Mr. Wells, I am certain that Attorney Ben Crump and others would love for you to come forward with that. Any photos, any phone records, any last sightings, anything that would help this case along, because there has been no indictment. There has been no indictment of anyone, and yet a lot of hate mail is going back and forth. There's hate mail and death threats going to the family of the children that were on the boat with Mr. Wells. They are receiving death threats. Black folk are receiving death threats. This is a hot mess, Doc. We have a situation here where, as you say, is long from being over, but it is bringing back some ugliness inside of our communities that we had hoped we had seen the last of.
Well, you never see the last of it. And one thing that you're going to see in the next 3 to 5 years, a lot of people making financial gain from this situation with Mr. Wells. You're going to see some major movies, some major books, some major presentations, and a lot of people are going to make a lot of money of this, including the parents. Now, that's something people don't want to talk about. That's why certain national and international actors get together and promote these kind of things, allege that they're going to do something about it. But at the same time, when you get through reading that small print and looking at these contracts these parents and others sign, you find that there's a economic incentive for the outside agitators, as the white folks used to say in Mississippi. Those outside agitators caused the problem. And that's what is going to happen in this case. It happened in the Till case, in the case where those 3 were found in that dam up there in your part of the country where they buried those folks. They even said Emmett Till was back in Chicago before they found him. Oh, that boy's back in Chicago. He's having a good time. You know how it goes.
I do know how it goes, Doc, and we're going to continue to bring our viewers updated information associated with this case as it moves along. And certainly we're praying for all of the family on both sides, the children of the young men and that were there with Mr. Wells. We know that it's a trying time, and if my son had been on that particular boat right now, I know how I would be feeling, thinking any day now that somebody might accuse him of having some hand in this, and I wouldn't sleep well. I would be as nervous as a cat on a hot tin roof right now. Whether you are guilty or innocent, you are having a bad day. When the FBI, which is involved on this case, when they come knocking on your door, you are having a bad day. Guilt or innocent has nothing to do with it. You know, it is one of those situations that you can indict a ham sandwich, but yet no indictment has come in this case. and you can convict someone for little or nothing, as we've seen in many times here in Mississippi. So many people are in prison based upon crimes they did not commit. And so we've seen it all, and we're going to keep you involved what's going on with Mr. Wells. Now we're going to go to a commercial break. We're going to come back and we're going to deal with some plans, a 10-step plan on how we can save our beloved city of Jackson. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Yeah, get you some points and give it back to me. I don't have a one copy. Oh, I'm thinking we were on.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
It's a beautiful day outside. Great day to be working with the We Believe Digital Network. Oh. Hey, what's going on? How you doing? I wasn't expecting you to be here yet, but since you're here, hey, welcome to the We Believe Digital Network, where we make your dreams come true. We have a podcast station and a radio station that I'm about to show you. Come on inside. Okay, so now that you're inside, let me take you into the room where we make all the magic happen, right here in the We Believe Digital podcast and radio station studio itself. All right, then, y'all ready? Let's go.
It's another deal that's getting out of hand. The young people.
Hey, welcome to the behind the scenes room of the We Believe Digital podcast, where all the podcast and engineering happens when we make all the magic happen. I am your engineer, head engineer, JB. How you doing? Hope all is well. Currently right now at the We Believe Digital Network, we have a deal going on for $99 an hour studio sessions. So don't miss out on this opportunity. Let us know if you want it. And reach out to your team and we'll build your dream. Have a good one. Oh, come on in. Hey, welcome to the behind the scenes of the We Believe Digital radio station, where everything We Believe Digital radio takes place. I am currently mixing and mastering a playlist for the radio station. Speaking of that, if you have any suggestions or even your own songs or podcasts or talk shows that you might want to be featured right here on the radio station, you can email us at webelieveplatforms@gmail.com. Catch y'all on the next. Hey, feel like your voice needs to be heard? Ever wanted to be on your own podcast or even be a part of one? Guess what? You now can right here at the We Believe Digital Network, but we'll make it happen. You can catch us at this email, at this location, and this phone number.
And we're back. You've been listening to Doc and Sock. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi. The commercial that you saw just gives you some idea of the capacity and that we have here in the broadcast station, and we love your support. We want you to subscribe to the program. You can find us on wherever you get your streaming from. We're on Facebook, YouTube, we're on TikTok, we're on Twitch, we're on Instagram, and so wherever you're getting your streaming from, you can find We Believe Digital. Now, we want sponsors for this show. So we, Doc and Sock, would love to have you as a sponsor for this show. And you support the good work. We listen to all of the sponsors that they have over on other radio stations that are trashing our city and our people all of the time, and yet there's no shortage of sponsors for that kind of conversation. Then let's show some appreciation for folk in our community that's doing good work. and we need your sponsorships over here. We'd love to promote your products for goods and services and whatever else you got going. So call us at 601-209-9199. You can reach me there any time of the day, 24 hours a day. Our rates are very reasonable, and we would love to have you as a sponsor to this show. Now, Doc, on the second half of our show, you have recognized that our city of Jackson is hurting and that we have a 20% or greater poverty level in our city. That means that 20% of our population is living under poverty. We have some of the highest crime rates. We have a high dropout rate. We have high infant mortality in the state of Mississippi. Doc, you say you got a plan, and you can provide some guidance and some leadership on how we solve some of the things that are wrong with Jackson. How do we do that?
Well, it's very simple. You have to look at certain things and see where the malfunction is. First, you want to look in the home. You want to look in the church. You want to look at the school situation. And then you want to look at what we call the local, state, and federal social agencies that have a legal and constitutional mandate to look out for the welfare of the people. Now, one of the most important things that we have to look at when you start talking about criminal activity in any city, if you have parents that don't know how to be parents, if they don't know anything about leadership, discipline, and so forth, if they don't be strong against miseducation and teach something at the home, in the home for the children, if you look at the church and they don't have any kinds of teen summits other than 1 week Bible school once a year, if you look at your government agencies, local, state, and federal, and they don't give adequate funds to the families that's in need, you're going to have to hire more police on the local and state level and build more jails, more institutions that's going to warehouse the young people. Now, they are not going to train them because they're going to hire people through contracts to manage these jails. And there is no way a private contractor at a prison institution going to make any money by providing a lot of training. You get them in, you charge a fee per person, per day, make sure you have some strong areas to lock them up if they mess up. You're not going to train them because they won't be coming back if you give them a good training while they're in prison. And it's an economic engine for the state and sometimes the local government, and of course, for the federal government. But there is a way to do this, and some of the police people know about it, how to solve the problem. Now, let's look at what the police chief of Jackson has said. She said basically that she needs to look at where the criminal activity is taking place, and they have mapped neighborhoods, according to my research, with the highest rate of juvenile arrest. Now, you know, if you have a certain area and you can map it, you know where the criminal activity is taking place. And then you have to look at the school system, since the parents are not teaching anything. Where is the violence taking place in the schools? Identify the schools. And then you have to focus on the resources where the crimes are taking place. What are the people stealing? Food, clothing, cars, or whatever. And then you review this data every month. And that's where you put your police force and work with the schools, build a strong relationship with the community organizations, and you'll find that you have to have this in order to curtail the criminal activities. Suppose you don't have an organized system to concentrate in areas where you know your murder is going to be happening every Friday night, Saturday and Sunday nights. Suppose you don't go and work with the school systems where you know most of their students are miseducated and they are fighting and killing each other, burning things down. Dropout rate is 50% or higher, and you don't do anything about it. So when you review the data every month and you're consistently finding that certain things are happening, you have to attack it.
Now, Doc, You may be subscribing to the theory that 80% of the crime is committed by less than 10% of the population. And then you further saying that you can identify where that is occurring.
Yeah, I can do that in anyone else, especially those with law enforcement background. You know, I have a law enforcement background, and it's very easy to find out where the people are that's committing major criminal felonies. You can plot it on a map. They have social media now that can find and locate anything that's happening. There's no reason why you can't find the people that are killing folks. They got cameras everywhere, in homes, in the cities, all on the telephone poles and everywhere. Most businesses have them. So there's no reason no way you couldn't concentrate on the criminal activity and catch folks, and then have some kind of program where you don't have to put everybody you find in jail. Now, one thing that you find, I told you about miseducation. A lot of people are believing that, well, I'm going to get my child in a situation where they go and finish high school. Most of the criminals and the young men and women that are violating the law are not high school completers. So therefore, you have to start working with the young people before they get out of middle school and start working on some kind of program so they can get out of high school as a dropout and still have a program where they can be trained and receive the credentials they need to get a job, versus being out there working hard at stealing in order to get some economic resources so they can be competing with their friends. So you have to have these schools doing something different. I've used this word many times, and it's nowhere close to new. You have to repurpose the school systems and stop thinking about getting high school diplomas. You have to concentrate on getting these young people that you know are going to drop out, because you knew that from middle school, and many times before middle school that you're not going to finish high school. You identify those young people and you start creating situations in the schools, including the parents, where they learn how to be competitive economically through getting credentials in technology and vocational programs like air conditioning, heating, teaching them when they get in a certain age how to drive trucks, how to deal with summer employment. Every local town should have some kind of summer employment for their children. They should have these community organizations providing services like financial literacy and technology, robotics, and all kinds of things. This is for the young people that's not going to finish high school. And you will be surprised, at least you won't, but when you get somebody in an area where they are making progress and they can see that they are doing something that's productive, they usually want to concentrate in those areas and become a person with the ability to do welding, truck driving, be able to do automation, artificial intelligence, build drones, and things of that nature.
Now, Doc, you mentioned that we got to get in the homes and in the churches and in the schools. What role?
No, but one or two churches in Jackson that are doing anything significantly for giving anything to families other than in crisis situations where they give them a little water and a little food package during major holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving. And they have a small religious program, usually about a week or two during the summer, but that doesn't help very much. These churches, in my opinion, since they are always looking at the fact that they are heaven bound, they need to have parenting classes at these churches. They need to have family counseling at these churches. That's where the social workers are, the psychology majors, the preachers, the lawyers, and the judges, and the law enforcement officers are. They need to have these substance abuse treatment facilities at these churches. And they need to have conflict resolution training at the churches. And they pair these people with the social service organization on the local and state level. And they use the police force. And these colleges and universities have all of these young people that are being trained in all the areas plus others that I mentioned. And they could pool those people in areas where the concentrated criminal activities happen, do this training that I mentioned, conflict resolution, mental health services, family counseling, and get the parents involved in parenting classes, because most parents, usually in the situation where the people are doing most of the criminal activity, are single parents or old parents that are taking care of the grandchildren and the great grandchildren. So they need parenting classes, Socrates, and not prayer. I get on this often. We have to start working with the individual where they are with what they need at the time, way before death.
Doc, I get you. I smile because I agree that we need less prayer and more parenting skills. I can see that, but it's hard for you to deliver that message in any church, Doc.
Well, I do get a chance to do it once.
They don't invite you back.
No, they don't. I've been telling you this for years. They will give me one chance, and they do that because they don't know exactly what I'm going to talk about. But I do know that if I get an opportunity to talk at a church, I'm going to get around to these things that are important one way or the other. And I have a lot of Bible verses that I can use that condone anything I say. And I've been telling you for a while, I go to Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. And it explains and clarifies that there are certain things you can do under the heaven, which include everything to help solve the problems you have. Versus the Ten Commandments. I told you this many times. And that's where you solve your problems, by saying there are always going to be problems. There are myriad ways to solve them. And all this is going to be happening under the earth, and you can solve them because you are going to address every problem: love and hate, war, peace.
Doc, I get you, and I'm a student of the Bible, but I'm not certain I understand it well enough. I get a little confused when David is referred to as one of God's favorite, and he, in fact, allegedly wanted Bathsheba and sent her husband off to be killed in the war so that he could have his wife and father the child by her, but yet he's looked upon as one of God's favorite people. And then you got Solomon over here that apparently didn't do anything wrong. He was a God-fearing man, and he certainly didn't do anything like David, and yet he was put to the task. He lost everything, his children, his wealth. His wife told him, why don't you curse God and die?
That's right. Well, those things happen. But if you look at the aftermath of that, in all those situations, those guys were able to repent and declare that they love the Lord. And when you repent and ask for forgiveness, the Lord will help you and give you more than you had previously. But you got to be able to admit that you were wrong. Now he knows that you're going to be doing things that's not biblically sound. He doesn't worry about that. That's what man does. Adam and Eve proved that. But he's going to give you a chance to do wrong. All you have to do is repent, no matter how bad you have done things. And if you do that and be sincere, your blessings will come back tenfold in most cases.
Doc, I don't know. That sounds like you can go out and do whatever you want to do. You can kill, destroy, disrupt, and then repent, and you'll make it in. And the old boy that was drinking alcohol and wine under the tree that never declared he was doing nothing wrong, and had a little girlfriend on the side that was married, but he never declared anything, and he never repented, and maybe he didn't make it.
Well, usually if you don't repent according to the Christian precepts, you might not make it. But see, all those suck is just man-made ideas to get you to conform to what's good at the present time. Most people don't care anything about where you go when you die, because most people are afraid to die. They don't want to even look at it in a serious manner. They're afraid to even talk about it. They are worried about what they do while they're on earth. And I did tell you, the Bible condones anything that happens under the earth, And you will find that if you do what you're going to do, you can always repent, ask for forgiveness, and your blessing will start coming. Now, a lot of people don't believe that. But if you look at the history of mankind, you've had some of the worst people in the world to do all kinds of things, and then they turn out and be good, or vice versa. Look at the man that made the atomic bombs. He started giving out all kinds of money for people that promoted peace. Look at some of the strongest racists we have had in Mississippi and other places that had these outside families. They sent their sons and daughters to black universities and colleges. During the time they were married with their own kids. I know a lot of them, and you know a lot of them. All of them are not dead yet. The kids in the 20s, 30s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, still alive. It has been that way at all times.
Now,
and
Doc,
many are successful.
Doc, we're going to have to deal with this more extensively. We're running out of time, and we got a couple more subjects that we got to get to. Doc, our community is being torn apart on the issue of data centers. Data centers in Jackson, Mississippi, our city council has voted to put a moratorium on data centers. I think it's 160 days or some time parameter like that, because we don't know exactly what the liabilities of data centers are in our community. And yet, we are the poorest state in the nation, and we have a lot of things, and we are the most unhealthiest people in the world. Why is it that we are frightened of data centers? Is it that we think it will make us more unhealthy, or should it be looked upon as something that could improve health quality in Mississippi?
Well, it's the latter. It should be looked upon as something that improve the quality of health in Mississippi. It all depends on how the politicians address that issue with the data centers. You have to look at the pros and cons of data centers. And we have looked at it, and a lot of states have, and they are using a lot of different schemes. They are not just giving away millions and millions and billions of dollars to the data complexes already rich. Some of them are putting guidelines on them and say, in this area, if you use certain amount of electricity, you're going to be charged for it. You can still use it, but you're going to have to pay to use it. And the money goes to the local citizenry that's being impacted. You are not going to be using but so many 100 gallons of water in this community. And if you do, you're going to have to pay the state or the county so they can pay the citizens. You are going to be building a smaller center than you planning to do, and you're going to expand in 15 to 30 years versus building a center that's going to hire 2,000 people in the next year or so. That's the way Jackson and others need to look at it and do incremental planning and look at the economics and not put all the burden on the citizens in the area, especially Jackson and Hinds County, and build those things so they could be competitive with the other cities and states and nations, because it's going to happen. And it doesn't take anything but research to find out the good plans and the bad plans. But the city leaders will have to get together, find a pool of money where they can hire experts that already know about this thing. And you don't need no 6 months of study. You need to get those guys and women that already know the information, pull them together, pay them decently for their expertise, and then get the best plan, the best strategies that's taking place throughout the nation and the world as far as data centers are concerned, and incrementally use those deals and ideas in Jackson. You don't wait. You don't put it off for the next 3 or 4 years, or even the next 6 months. You do that study and make it happen and be competitive with others.
I know that councilperson Tina Clay, who I'm a big fan of, I think she's doing an outstanding job. I think that her heart's in the right place and that she wants to move this city forward. I think this issue of data centers is one that we have to help our leaders understand a little bit better. Now, Tina and I both live less than 3 miles from a data center that's sitting in Madison County. It's sitting right there, one of the largest data centers in the country. So if there's any negative health associated with a data center, we're going to experience it from that data center that's right there. They build it as close to Jackson as they can anyway, but Jackson gets none of the tax revenue associated with that development.
Well, that's the responsibility of the local city council and the state legislature. They're supposed to determine who's going to receive the funds, who's going to pay the funds, and it most certainly shouldn't be the taxpayers. There should be some equity in there where the taxpayers will get something other than the data center. They have to guarantee a certain number of jobs. They have to guarantee that the data center is not going to get $400 and $500 million to build railroads and other spurs to activity, so they can take their activity out of there, use space and internet facilities to take all the energy away from the local people where you don't even have broadband in your community. That can be overcame by good planning and good strategies.
And it should be. And we take a look at the Grand Gulf nuclear plant that's down in Port Gibson, Mississippi. Now, I don't know much about nuclear plants. I think there have been 2 or 3 incidents, both in Russia and both up on the East Coast, where there has been some eruption in the nuclear plants and radiation, etc., and it caused a great deal of problems. But when they build the nuclear plant down in Port Gibson, one thing that we knew is that the revenue associated with that development in Claiborne County was going to be an economic boom for Claiborne County.
That's what you thought.
That's what I thought, Doc. But somehow the legislator in the state of Mississippi decided that that was too much money for them Negroes down in Claiborne County. And so they passed a law to reappropriate and redistribute the wealth of the Grand Gulf Nuclear Center to other places. And so I don't want to see that happen with data centers, that the poorest of us continue to get the least amount of benefit from entities like the nuclear plant, data centers, tire plants, battery plants, Toyota point, Nissan points. All of these things seems to be very elusive when it comes to direct impact on the least of us in these poor towns.
Well, that has been the history of those instances, and it's because Black people in the early days didn't have as much political clout as they pretend they have now. During the period when they had this thing down in Port Gibson, the nuclear plant, you didn't have a lot of Black politicians, had just a few in that area. But now you have a lot of them, even though they don't have any power to make things happen. They don't have the majority vote, but they do have the legal avenues to file suits and hold these things down and negotiate. When an entity going to lose millions of dollars, they don't mind someone suing, but they are not going to continue to allow you to sue and hold that project where they are going to make billions and billions of dollars. They will negotiate with you. But if you have these ideas where it's a secret, and the governor and the leaders of various committees on the legislative side don't tell the local politicians, and the few that know won't tell their constituents, you won't find anything happening but what you mentioned. But these things can be addressed. There can be equity if you work with them, file suits against them, delay them. And when anybody starts losing millions and millions of dollars a week, they will call you to the table and say your school system will be getting $400,000 or $500,000 a semester. The county supervisor is going to get $2 or $3 million per year. The city government, small towns in the area are going to be $800,000 and $900,000 a year for their infrastructure and so forth. It takes negotiation. You don't curtail the activity, you just negotiate. And if you don't have the power to vote is in action, there's something called the court system.
Doc, we're about out of time. There was one other issue that I just briefly want us to talk about briefly, and that is redistricting. You know, the November elections are now in full swing. I know that there was a big event at Ferry Street Baptist Church over the weekend where Congressman Thompson and Cologne, the district attorney that's seeking to win the seat against Cindy Hyde Smith and Miss Also Brooks were all in attendance down at Ferry Street. This redistricting thing has got Black folks up in arms.
Well, that's expected. But that's something too that can be ruled by the Black folks. When you talk about what I'm going to mention now, you'll find that people will say, "Well, you've lost your mind." That is a problem that just need to be negotiated. If Black people are afraid of redistricting and gerrymandering and so forth, they just need to get together and put a prioritized corrective action plan together where Black people start voting in certain Republican areas as Republicans versus being a Democrat. And there are mechanisms available where you can vote in both during the same election cycle. You can be a Democrat in one vote and a Republican in the next. So Black people used to be Republicans up until the 60s. So why can't they vote Republican again? And when you all hear that, you all get scared. That's what you did. You voted longer as a Republican than Democrat in America.
It's almost sacrilegious, Doc. It's blasphemy of some sort for you to tell Black people that they ought to pray less and parent more. They ought to vote in the Republican Party and not always in the Democratic Party.
Of course. That's the stirring thing, sir.
Doc, you're stirring up the world.
But that's where you get results, good positive results, and that's where you get equity as a human being.
We're out of time. We're going to try and get back to you on Wednesday and keep you up to date on what's happening in Mississippi. Somebody has got to tell the truth about it. We're not here to bash anybody. We're not here to call names and to talk about individuals as to what they are not doing, but we are here to give ideas and come up with concepts that they could implement if they would only but listen. Doc is one of the most renowned orators in the country, and he is available to speak to any group at any time, anywhere. And I would be delighted to come along with him during that occasion. So if you need a good speaker, if you need someone that's going to talk to the heart of the issues, not afraid, not ashamed, not going to be radical to the extent that we won't lie. The truth may be something that pinches or comfort from time to time, but the truth will set you free. And so if Doc, tell our viewers how they can get in touch with you if they want you to come and speak.
Well, it's very simple, ladies and gentlemen. You call us at 601-201-1957. That's 601-201-1957. Or you can email us at clu369@gmail.com. We will go anywhere in the world. Call us. We need to know two things. What is the topic and how long you want us to talk? And we'll give you a prioritized corrective action plan that you can start working on in 30, 60, 90 days to solve any problem you have in your community. Guaranteed. Or you get your money back.
Doc, that's it for us tonight. We look forward to visiting with you again on Wednesday. And y'all be safe and good night.
Yeah, I've been working on it.